This is Garcia, and this is my calculator project. So, here, I create a scanner. Now, this scanner you'll be able to access it anywhere. Every method is able to access it since it is outside the main method and just below the class. So, I thought that was useful. Alright, so first, I make the string yes or no, because here is where the user will either input yes or no based on whether they want to repeat, they want to keep going, they want to maybe calculate something else, but I'll delve into that later. So here I ask the user whether they'd like to enter the mode it'd be standard or scientific. And if it's standard, you would only be doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. And scientific would be the same, except you'd be able to access sine, cosine, and tangent branches. Okay. So here's a string. You create variable mode. It's empty, and then I ask the user, what mode do you want? And here, I can showcase that. So sorry about that. Standard. So if the user puts standard, they'll be able to access the operators in the standard if branch. So if the user puts something else, they won't be able to do that. And so this while loop here covers that if the user inputs something else other than what is asked of them, it'll keep asking until they comply. I think that's pretty neat. So wow, the user choice does not equal plus, minus. Keep asking and store that into user choice. So I create user choice here because you first have to ask the user to enter which operator they want, and if it's not the appropriate one, it'll keep asking. Anyway, so if the user inputs the plus operator, the addition operator, like I just did, and it'll go into this if branch. And so I use methods because I think it's far more reliable. And so here I call the method getInt and prompt. So we can find it right here. And so what this does is it takes in the return type int because you want an integer. It speaks for itself. And then you make the parameter string prompt because this will be where what you're asking them. So if you go to main, I'm asking how many numbers you want to add. And so this will be stored in this variable string, and then we print it, and then we ask them, and then we return an integer. Yeah, that's the wrong one, but it's right there. But it's the same idea, except this one returns a string, and this one returns an integer, but it doesn't really matter. So here we're calling getInt and prompt, right? And then you store that integer and put it in amount, and then we tell them enter amount of numbers because we want to know so if they enter 3, they can enter 3 different numbers, like 1, 2, or 3, right? And so then I call the summation method. So we can go here, and it takes in a double variable amount. So here's a parameter amount, and if we go back, this is the argument amount. It'll take the amount that's here. So if the user input 3 here, let's say, that 3 gets stored in amount, and then I'm calling it on the summation method because we want to know the amount of numbers. Otherwise, you'll see. So because yes, I will iterate less than the amount. So it'll if the amount is 3, I will iterate 3 times. And then what I'm doing is I'm asking the user to input. I'm waiting for the user, to input the 3 different numbers. So we can see it here. How many numbers do you want to add? Let's use 3, like I've been saying. Okay, I want to add 1, 2, and 3. And so this will iterate 3 times. And once it's done, it'll add it to sum. So let's say at index 0 is less than amount. Okay, sum, which is 0. So I input 1, right? So 0 plus 1, well, that's 1, and then you put that in sum, and it'll do that 3 times, which is why we get our result 0. Well, obviously you return that, and then if you go back to main, then we store that in the double variable sum, and then we display the sum. And I use another method, so we can go to display. And what it does is it takes our result, so the argument we gave display, which would be the result of the summation method right here. It'll be the result of this. It'll be what's being returned, as you can see right here, yeah. And then it'll just say, and then we just print out result plus plus the result variable we're using in the the parameter. Sorry, yeah. So let's go back, and then it's the same thing, right? So if the user inputs subtraction, well, here subtraction, then it'll go to the subtraction if branch, and so it'll be the same. However, I'd had troubles with this with the difference the subtraction method actually, and I want to show you how I solved it. So see, the problem I was having here was while the loop, essentially what it was doing, so it was making the first number a negative number. It makes sense because that's what I was telling it to do. So how I fixed that was I just asked for the negative number, the first negative number. So again, if this is 3, right? If the parameter is 3, the first number, so this one would be asked before. And this is why I do amount minus 1, because otherwise I would have 4 numbers, and we don't want that. And we return the differences. It's the same thing, really. And here, and yeah. And so now let's go over this, yes or no. So what I did was I did a do while loop. So here it goes over everything, and then while, yes or no, that equals ignore case. Yes, this while loop, will keep running infinitely. So yes, then if I mess up a lot, if I put no, everything will terminate, right? And it'll be goodbye. So if you enter anything other than y, it'll be goodbye, and then that's the end of it. And then here, obviously, in the scientific, right? If the mode is scientific, so if I'm the user now, I put scientific, then you can access sine, cosine, and tangent. And what I do is, so if the user inputs sine, then you use getInt and prompt, and then you prompt enter a number in radians, and that gets stored into, so the integer, that is, so getInt, so the integer the user inputs is stored in num for sine. And then I use the math.sine method for this specific calculation, and I just display it in with the display method. So the same idea. That's pretty much it, really. Yeah. And then, so I can showcase that right now. So sine 50, enter a number, and then it gives you the result. And then no, I don't want to keep going. Yeah, and that's about it, really.